all the demons quiet. Yeah, we were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. What keeps you up at night, yeah. Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough.
Hey there, welcome. Drop It Up Dev here, coming at you with a update for June 13th. Happy Juneteenth for all y'all. And I've been trying to get a few videos out here to kind of, and also sit with what's going on so that I can figure out like the best way to proceed forward. Hold on one second. Yeah, gotta get some LaCroix going. The best way to proceed forward from where we're at. I don't know about y'all, but I've been extremely busy and extremely just tied to the news cycle, trying to assess all the details that are coming out is extremely difficult right now. This is one of the difficulties with where we're at as we progress down a more chaotic path. It'll be increasingly difficult to figure out and understand what is going on and what to do about it. Excuse me. All right. So for June 13th, I think for a while, we're going to shoot for weekly updates. The one-off, as they come up, event analysis doesn't seem like it's going to be a thing because there's just a ton going on right now. So I want to just briefly touch on that. We're not going to go into events right now. We're going to talk about concepts and this analysis process and kind of a few broader ideas. This is going to kind of wrap up the type of analysis we have been doing. Although, hey, events might come up, we might do one or two, but there is a flood of things going on right now, and it doesn't seem like it's going to let up. So, previously, last week, you'll remember that we had some individual events that we called out and we talked about that were sounding like they were escalations. And then so we went over those and then proceeded on our merry way, and then stuff started happening on Saturday, mainly focused on LA. So while at the time, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, those events seem to be local to Southern California. Since then, of course, throughout the week, a lot's happened, and it does seem like with the protests coming on the 14th, from what we're hearing, yesterday, today, going into tomorrow, any place where there's, these protests is a potential to be very high threat. Although, there's just not enough National Guard to go to 2,000 plus events across the country. We're talking about millions of people going to be in the streets this weekend. So, don't be scared. Go. Just be careful and, be aware of the situation. Don't get tunnel visioned. Be always, looking around and just keep you and your community safe there. And we'll all get through this weekend. That's the goal. So that's kind of just the brief overview, threat assessment wise, where we're at. We're saying that I'm going to just put your, red nation wide due to protests and military and statements, and yeah, we're just gonna go there. This started June 7th. Okay, whatever. We're moving on from this. This is gonna go on and remember. We've been. It turns out surprisingly accurate. Maybe more so than I even thought. Based on all we did was in January took the things that they wanted. They said they wanted to do either last Trump administration or leading up to this one, and we just kept track of it. So that was pretty simple and straightforward. So now we're becoming. It's more. It's more ad hoc. It's more fast paced. Like things are just happening. So what I wanted to do in this is actually go through some historical events, and we could look at those real quick, and we can maybe kind of see where this is headed. My work computer is making a lot of racket right now. It's updating over here. That is quite annoying. Is it a call or a... Well, it's not a call. That's all I care about. It's just emails coming in or something. Anyways, they're annoying that they would bug me at this time. So, we are going to start with some historical events. Now, why is that not doing the thing that I want it to do? Hold on. Here we go. Okay, so we're gonna, because we know that Russia is highly involved in our U.S. politics, and we should assume that they continue to be highly involved. Everyone knows that Trump is an idiot. Where is he taking his orders and instructions from and his plans from? It comes, some of it potentially comes from Russia, and it seems to follow like a very specific doctrine. They do this in other places, and they have been working on the United States for a long time. The goal is to create, first they create doubt, flood the zone, and they work really hard, spend a lot of money and effort on it, flood information spheres with disinformation, take over those information spheres, and then they eventually, it eventually turns violent. Okay. So what we are looking at is Belarus. So I brought this up because back in 2020, Belarus has had Andrew Lukashenko, who's been a puppet of Putin. He has been the head of state since 1994. And then in 2020, they didn't have elections, and then basically there was a start to a mass uprising in that time, and then there was millions of people in the street. So if you look at this, I remember this going on and watching it and thinking, my gosh, man, these people are really going to do it. And it doesn't seem like they were able to get enough momentum. So what protests, I'm just reading it. Protests, mass political demonstrations and protests against Lukashenko in 2020 and 2021. Large anti-government protests in history, largest in history of Belarus. The demonstration began with a lead up to the election, and he sought his 6th term in office, and the protests intensified nationwide, and they had they had 60 to 70% of the votes, even though he's having mass demonstrations. So this, is clearly they don't have a legitimate elections over there, and people decided that they weren't going to take it anymore, and they were in the streets. In May, hundreds of protesters They didn't want him to run again. Okay, so they had, I mean, if we look, there is, these are large protests, and then the crackdown on these was very severe and very violent. I think, I don't know if this is here. If we look here, I believe, how do I search here, Russia? On August 11th, reported that police officers, government agents took memory cards from journalists. So they took, Russia reported 3 of its journalists had, so Russia had its journalists there, and then they reported they were beaten. And then I believe there's more just stuff about this. I thought they were going to invite Russian troops or something. I don't know if that's here, but I just remember that. I don't know. Now that I think it was around this time, I remember these guys got arrested, and I wasn't sure. Lots of shenanigans happened right there. This Belarusian authorities ordered a passenger plane flying from Greece to Lithuania to land. So they forced a plane down that was just flying nearby or over their country. So lots of like real chaotic stuff was happening. That's terrifying. Like if you're just flying to another country and happen to be over a country, and then they're having jets force your plane down, like stuff like that is pretty intense. I don't see it here. They blocked websites and independent news and radio platforms. So I'm just trying to find events and interesting things that could come up that would be interesting to know about. Some of this stuff, like the jets being forced down, like journalists being arrested, stuff like this could be worth keeping an eye out for. And okay, we'll move on to Syria here. We're going to look at Russian-Syrian involvement. 1 second. Maggie, do you want to swim at Grandma Terry's? Do you want to swim at Grandma Terry's? I'm guessing with Lucy. Yeah. I'm just that's what Mom said to ask you. Oh, I'm asking. Okay, so alrighty, we are going to look at this real quick. Russian-Syrian timeline of events. So I don't know what we're going to find out here from this giant Wikipedia article. I probably should have prepared more, but I remember this happening and being appalled that the U.S. did not step in and help. So we'll start here. The Syrian coup. So in 1966, the Soviet Union had the opportunity to support Syria, so they supported a movement for Hafez al-Assad. So this is like the more current al-Assad guy's dad, I guess. His coup to overthrow the government and take it over. And then, so at that point, you have like a very, clear collusion between those two countries. And then the U.S. was also someone involved there. Hold on, we got something to check out here. Because I'm not gonna read all of this. Hold on, I'm gonna check ADS real quick. Because we got some challenge I want to know what it was. Okay. Okay. Moving on. So, so the Soviets, so Syria was helping Lebanon liberation. I'm not seeing it. Okay, so I think the main thought of what I wanted to look at was maybe this time frame here. During this, there was a civil war, so Syria, there was a resistance movement against these Al-Assad people that were Russian-backed shills over here, and they wanted, some kind of democracy or something. So, the 2011, there was a civil war began, and this is what I remember. Russia and China voted against the Security Council, and to condemn the goal there to condemn al-Assad for attacks on civilians. So you got the Russians, people supporting the dictator who attacks a civilian. So this is like starting to build this idea that that's kind of like the MO. That's kind of like the Russian doctrine. We talk about like military doctrine. It's a certain way that things are set up and run, and operations go from the planning stage to execution. So the same thing in this soft power world, or this kind of like Cold War world where there's these operations that are put, planning and execution and all that stages go through, and that's the doctrine. So this is how they do it. They, they prop up these, authoritarian guys, and then they help them, suppress their civilian population, and, then they, pump the wealth out of the country. That's kind of like how they do it. And we're very much in a situation where that's happening here. So I'm just going to go through these examples here so we can look at them. And, this was a very long, dark time in Syria, where, this is just like mass destruction, basically, of the civilian population. And, recently, it started in 2011, and then, they eventually did kick this guy out in January or December. In December, December, when was it? December 9th. They kicked him out. So what is that? 14 years. So it doesn't. I mean, he left. Al-Assad left. The coalition of people, they kicked him out or whatever. There was a lot of interesting stories coming out right around this time, right around December. So he like flew away, and then there was like immediate like reports like his plane went down, and then he was like in hiding, and then he was like dead. So what actually happened, at that time, it's not exactly clear, or clear that we'll know. But interesting in a few aspects, in that we can look and start to build, okay, this is like how the Russian formula is, and what they do, because we're in it. We are here right now. I think we are here. We are looking right now at a Wikipedia page talking about the Euromaidan uprising. And I mean, I'm not going to go through this, but the kind of vibe here is very similar. So, and it followed, the same Russian doctrine here. They prop up authoritarian type people that are going to do. It's a little bit different in these Eastern European blocs, so they feel like they have like more direct control over the people that they prop up, whereas like in Syria maybe it was a little bit kind of more like a cooperative kind of a situation. I don't know how directly they perhaps pretty directly. So if you look at like characters like Lukashenko, and if you look at guys like I don't think forgetting right now the Kurds out there, not the Kurds. What am I thinking of? Anyways, brain not working for a moment there. But if you look at these, like this, very interesting. And what they try to do in Romania, I don't have that pulled up, but it's very standard. Like they go through the same steps, blasting different disinformation, and it's so invasive and destructive. Like when they have the ability to push lies out, it destroys these countries from the inside out over a number of years, and that's what we've seen here. Like to get back the truth and get people understanding what has happened over the last 15 years is extremely difficult, because once the lies are pervasive, once the lies are even out there, it's a extremely difficult struggle to get past that, because we're spending a lot of time combating lies and disinformation, and we really need to put that energy into pushing our own narratives forward, not defending ourselves from these lies. And I don't have a solution for that, but I just try to do that. What was I gonna say? I had an idea. Dang it. So we got these historical records here that we're looking at how we're just looking at a few different tidbits of information on this much larger idea. And I think people spend a lot of time hyper focusing on, one instance of this in history, and that's from Germany in the 1930s and 40s. And I think we need to expand this we need to look at more, not as much what they did, but although there's a lot of parallels, and we can draw some interesting ideas, we have to look at these other examples too, because we have a lot of data to draw from on all these other examples of when this has happened and what's going on and what might be coming next. All right, so where are we at? So we took a moment to look at some of these interesting connections with how Russia gets involved in other countries. There are more, and I'm not going to spend time going into every single thing and every single detail and talk in depth about this stuff. It's just to pick out some different ideas so that we can start to make connections here. So we looked at a few of those, and then yesterday Israel attacked Iran. So this is gonna be really difficult situation for a while. The rhetoric is that it's that it's all out war there. I I have no idea what kind of a quagmire this is going to be for the world, but I expect from what it sounds like it's going to be a big deal. Now, Russia supports Iran. To what degree, I'm not 100% sure. I haven't seen their response. We should just look that up real quick. So I don't know what we'll find here. Russian response to Israel attack. Okay, so there's something from 2 hours ago, and I think, yeah. So this is the thing that I've seen. So they are saying like this is going to be like a full scale declaration of war. Iran's foreign minister said the strikes were a declaration of war in the United Nations. So that's kind of the rhetoric is extremely heightened for this now. So the United States did know about this. They pulled people out of Iraq. They pulled diplomats out and their families out ahead of time. So they had some. It may have not have been that advanced warning. So there could be some kind of. I've heard kind of conflicting things. So it could have been like kind of a last minute thing. They're like, hey, you might want to pull your people out. You know, something might happen. Or it could have been, you know, there could have been more collusion going into it, I kind of think. So I heard some interesting analysis on this. So the U.S. is in the middle of trying to negotiate terms on nuclear proliferation with Iran, like right in the middle of it. So it's kind of a little bit of an FU from Israel to be like, oh, you're trying to get in the middle of we don't want this. You know, I don't know if that's the case or not. I'm not really going to speculate on that. I'm just going to call out that I see not necessarily diametrically opposed forces here, almost like four you know, a four-way over here. I don't know how, since Putin and Trump have aligned on several things and worked together on several things, is it Putin, Trump, Russia on this side, Putin, Trump, Russia, Iran on this side, kind of, and Israel getting in the mix? Is there some backstabbing going on in some capacity? I don't know. I don't know what's going to come out of this. So that's very uncertain right now, and I don't know what to do with it, really, but I want to call it out because it is happening, and it is very significant. So, I mean, we'll just have to keep an eye on it, and we'll see if this affects us. You know, our troops going to get deployed, stuff like that. It'll be a very interesting. Anytime there's large-scale military stuff, and you have like anti-war protesters versus the regime, you know, that's a very different dynamic than what we've seen so far, which is like anti-king stuff. So I don't know. Usually they'll get like some patriotic, you know, nationalists kind of like movement behind their overseas aggressions type thing. It doesn't seem like they have that, so I don't know how people are going to react to that. I mean, it's like, what? There's another thing that we're thinking about that's going on? I mean, and this is... I don't see it going over very well for the Trump administration to support Israel And the State Department has come out saying we didn't know anything about it and they're messing up our plans. So I do think that Marco Rubio made some statement like that. And then Trump's kind of maybe riding the fence on it. I don't really know. So that is a long and rambling video. It's not really the same type of threat assessment we have been talking about because we're putting in some theorizing into it. We're trying to formulate where things might go from here. Because up until this point for our threat assessment, we've had very clear statements on what they want to do, where things are going, and we are basically out of those. We are to the end of that way of doing it, since now we're kind of left to, if we want to do threat assessment, we have to scrape up some details from other sources, from not, and then maybe we'll like look and they said they're going to do this weekend. Well, that's too quick to really do anything about in this way. So we're gathering information from other sources to try and build out theories on what might happen. And I think we're shifting to more of a report type situation where we will report on events somehow. So that's going to take a little bit of time to it's going to take me a little bit of time to get going. I have done a few monthly reports and one-off action reports, but a little bit of a different process here. So we're going to have to basically build some templates out and, get the mindset into that. So, I don't know. Yeah. Rambling for freaking ever on this one. Do apologize for that. But anyways, I just want to say that we have No Kings protests going on tomorrow around the country. We will come out in force and we will show dictators that the American people will not be pushed around. And though this might take 15 years, it might take more. The storm is howling, and we're going forward till the end.